let him go live. Rishabh? Okay? Okay, good afternoon, everybody. So, today, as you know, it's a special lecture for our PhD students as well as those who are researchers in different campuses of HBNI. And as an introductory note, I'll first talk about Humboldt Foundation, then about the today's speaker. Alexander von Humboldt Foundation, popularly known as AVH Foundation, is an internationally acclaimed, prestigious German funding agency which sponsors researchers of any academic discipline and nationality. AVH Foundation support all the recipients during their entire lifetime and actively promote international understanding, scientific progress and development. And today we are happy that Professor Mala Pandurang, Principal Dr. BMN College of Home Science, is there with us to talk on different aspects of different opportunities from the Humboldt Foundation. At present, she is designated as Ambassador Scientist by AVH Foundation to spread awareness of various schemes of AVH Foundation. She will deliver a talk on postdoctoral research possibilities through Alexander von Humboldt Foundation. This talk is going to be very useful for our final year PhD students and faculty members, those are looking for postdoctoral fellowship opportunities. Professor Pandurang is an internationally recognized expert in the field of social cohesion and has received multiple recognitions, namely Fulbright Foundation from US, Charles Walsh Trust UK, Asiatic Society India, and University Grant Commission of India. Besides lifelong association with AVH Foundation, she has been chosen for the Humboldt Resident Award this year, and she is the first Indian to receive this award. She is also involved in various academic committees constituted by state and central government. With this brief introduction, may I now request Professor Mala Pandurang to deliver her talk. We are so happy to welcome you, and please, it's now yours.
Thank you very much. On, right? Yeah.
Make it on.
Thank you very much, Professor Naik. The members of the Homi Bhabha National Institute for inviting me to getting this talk going. It's a pleasure to be here and address young budding scientists and budding researchers, and to talk to you about the possibility of you also the Alexander von Humboldt Foundation, a foundation that believes and stresses on excellence at all possible levels. Alexander von Humboldt Foundation is basically based in Germany. Their office is in Berlin. And, one of the primary motives of the foundation is to ensure that they encourage connecting scholars across the world and promote academic excellence. This involves the transfer of knowledge and cooperation at the highest level. When I mention across the world, I would like to stress that when you become part of the Humboldt Foundation, although you spend your research tenure in Germany, it also gives you the very rich opportunity of interacting from scholars from across the globe. And therefore, you get this opportunity of networking with qualitative scholars all through the world. A little background on Alexander von Humboldt. I'm sure that many of you will be quite aware of him. But I think it's important perhaps to talk a little bit about the biographical details of Alexander von Humboldt, because this governs the ethos of the foundation. He was a discoverer, a universal scholar, a cosmopolitan, social geographiker, and someone who believed in humanism. And I think this is some of the defining qualities that is incorporated into the ethos of the institution, of the organization. The organization also believes in, can we remove that, please? Thank you. In the international network of academic cooperation, which basically is inspired by Humboldt's example. His biography is called Cosmos, and it is available on the site. And I think that it makes a very interesting read for those of you who would like to know more about this particular person who is recognized as one of the earlier scholars who promoted a research ethos at multiple levels. What of the foundation's work? First of all, the sponsorship of international academics as part of foreign cultural education policy. The strengthening of cutting-edge research through internationalization. Again, for young scholars, this becomes very important because we are working in a global arena where internationalization has become very important. The COVID pandemic has shown this, that it is crucial that we have sharing of knowledge at all levels. And the kind of scholars who do get accepted by the foundation are those who are capable of producing cutting-edge research. And therefore, particularly for young scholars who get this opportunity, it means that you will be coming in touch with some of the best minds across the world. And I'm sure that most of you will be very excited at this possibility. There is impetus for the research location in Germany by promoting individuals. So the fellowship, the location is Germany. So you would have to be in Germany. You cannot do it from any other location. But when I say promoting individuals, this is very important because you're selected on your ability to perform as an individual. That is your ability to do cutting edge research and what is your ability as a top researcher in your area. This means that you are not supported on the basis of an institution. For example, if you are part of the Homi Bhabha National Institution today and you get the fellowship, tomorrow if you leave the institution, you are still eligible to take up the fellowship because it goes only on the basis of individual excellence. You are chosen for the fellowship as Dr. A, B, C as an individual and not the institution that you are representing, and enhancing development through academic cooperation. So this kind of wonderful network that takes place and the emphasis on cooperation at different levels, but also academic cooperation, because after all, there is an academic element to any kind of postdoctoral work that's being done. As I said, the principles of the foundation is the sole selection criteria is academic excellence and nothing else. Okay? There is no quotas for countries or disciplines. There are several other foundations where there is a set number. Say in a year, if the foundation gives 800 fellowships, they are the international fellowships that would say that 100 to India, 50 to India, 50 for physics, 30 for chemistry, but there is no quota, neither for the country nor for the discipline. And I said it's a sponsorship of people and not projects. So if you can convince them that you have the qualitative ability, that you have the mind to perform this sort of research at top level, you're not really taken up on the basis of specific projects that you have done in the past, but you should be able to prove that you do have these qualities in you that are required of a top level scientist. A free choice of research topics and academic host and collaborative partner in Germany. Now, what does this mean? It means that where you're going is not defined by the foundation. You can define this. I will talk about the application process a little further down. But basically, it means that you can decide who your host is. Of course, you'll have to contact a host and get an acceptance. You can decide who you want to collaborate with. Again, there are other international foundations that have a one-to-one tie-up with specific institutions and say that you have to go to this institution. But that's not the case as far as the Humboldt Foundation is concerned. Foundation is giving a lot of stress on giving equal opportunities for young female academics. I'm happy to see here that there is a very good gendered representation here. The foundation recognizes some of the inherent socio-cultural factors that may affect the fact that women are not applying for such opportunities. There is allowance for childcare. Young women fellows are allowed a certain kind of break if you are having to go on maternity leave, for example. Spouse support also, and targeted counseling and provision of information. If any concerns that you may have as a female academician, that if I take this up, how do I go about it? There will be a one-to-one counseling that will be done. And there is definitely a desire that they would like to increase the number of female academicians. But once again, it is purely on the basis of merit. Okay? So there is no gendered reservation policy. You will have to prove yourself. But once you prove yourself, they will definitely try to support you in every possible way. This is some idea of the Humboldt Foundation's funding that is available. The updated figures, the foundation will be sharing this shortly, but because of the pandemic, there has been a lag in the last 2 years. But as you can see, the budget is almost 142.7 million euros, and it is financed by federal funds. So this is a kind of amount that the foundation uses every year to support its fellowship. What about research locations? For those of you who are familiar with Germany, I'm sure that I heard that you do have a lot of ABH fellows already. Alumni is part of your institution, and they may already be talking to you about different possible research locations. But if you do want to know, okay, where can you go? Okay, there are limitless possibilities. Those of you familiar with Germany will know that every city in Germany, every smaller city in Germany does have a university of its own. You have the Leibniz institutes, you have the Max Planck institutes, you have a number of centers which have specific research focus. And so you have a huge kind of basket from which you can do your exploration. At this point of time, I would like to share with you that whatever I'm telling you is available on the website, abh.de, Humboldt Foundation's website. It's a very comprehensive website. Whatever queries that you wish to ask, I urge you to visit the website, because I think that they have done an excellent job of trying to give as much information as possible on their website. So you can see that research location. And as I mentioned at the beginning, the research location is not limited. Okay? You will have to explore and find out perhaps institutions where you feel that you can take your work ahead. You'll have to work of connecting the hosts there, finding people who might be interested in working with you. But it's not that the Humboldt tells you that this is where you have to go. Okay? The choice is left to the scholars. Okay? This is just some figures that I gave you. There are approximately 100 universities giving research in all disciplines. The foundation supports social sciences, humanities, philology, pure sciences. So there's almost every discipline that's being covered. And I'm sure that being from the science faculty, you've already heard of these names because they have produced good scholars. And we also have a lot of Indian scholars, scientists who have been associated with these multiple institutions. What are the research fellowships that are available? Exceptionally qualified academics from abroad and from Germany. These details again, if you go to the website, you will have to an A to Z of all the possible funding possibilities which you can look up and explore at your level. But basically, in a nutshell, the sponsorship is available for foreign and German top flight academics. Therefore, if your own institution is interested in inviting a German academician here or a German scholar here, a German scientist here, that's a possibility also. On an average, there are around 700 research fellowships and awards that are given annually, which is quite a large number. but the acceptance rate is only around 20% of those who actually apply for the research fellowships. Flexible sponsorships offered for different career stages. I'll just touch upon that also shortly. And again, I say that there is individual and personal mentoring, which makes the foundation very unique, as Dr. Pranesh also, I think, would agree with me, that we are given individual mentors from the time that your application goes through, and it is like a one-to-one mentoring that you get. I have been on other international fellowships also, but I found this to be extremely unique, because many of you may feel that we are not familiar with a country like Germany. It's a completely different setup. Maybe we haven't heard enough about Germany. How are we going to manage there? But they have this excellent system. From the day that you land to the day that you leave, you have one person who's exclusively designated to handle whatever queries you have and to see that you have a good and a very comfortable tenure there. I'm sorry. Give me a minute. I think that I have skipped. What are the different sponsorships at a glance? As I said, if you go to the website, you can see that individual and extensive information, FAQ is also given, application process is given there. The entire application process now is online. So no physical or hard copies are accepted. For the junior postdoctoral researchers, it is up to 4 years after completion of doctorate. They are very strict about this. You will have to apply up to 4 years of completion of your doctorate. They calculate it from the day of the award of your doctoral degree. Okay. So this is called as a Humboldt Research Fellowship. Okay. Then for your junior research group leaders, it's up to 6 years after the completion of your doctorate. Experienced researchers up to 12 years of the completion. Okay. So you have these possibilities. It depends at what level you are now placed at. But you also have up to 15 years, up to 18 years, and international renowned academicians, but these are mainly by nomination. So you will have to do yourself, share your information, and get the German institute to nominate you if it is 15 years and above after the completion of your doctorate. Scholars here, I'll mainly talk about the postdoctoral researchers. The duration is 6 to 24 months. A question that is often asked is, can I stay for less time? No, you cannot. Your minimum time that you're expected to be there is for 6 months. Okay? But there is some flexibility. You can stay there for 12 months. You can stay there for 14 months. With exceptional circumstances, they will allow you to take a small break and return back to complete your work. Of course, you will have to justify that. Okay? For experienced researchers, it is again 6 to 18 months, and this may be divided up into 3 stages, of course, with sufficient justification. Okay? Application is at any point of time. This again makes this application process different from other foundations, because other foundations normally give you a deadline and say that, this is the last date of application. But this, your application can be done at any point of time. Of course, the committee meets thrice in a year, but you can submit your application at any point of time. And this is the kind of stipend that you would get, 2,650 euros per month, and additional benefits, including your travel allowance, your settling charge, your attend conferences during the tenure of the fellowship, grants, for example, if you're coming back, publication grants. So all these are your additional benefits. As I said, there is also support that is given to spouses and to dependents, but they have to stay for a minimum of 6 months. For experienced researchers, applications again at any point of time, and the stipend is 3,150 euros per month, plus your additional benefits. Okay? For the postdoctoral and experienced researchers. You have the Fyodor Linen Research Scholarship. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because I understand that most of the people attending are the postdoctoral scholars. But all this data is available on the website for more experienced researchers who might want to look it up. Trying to, sorry, but so what are your application requirements? Because this is a question that most young scholars ask, that what are the application requirements? Basic requirements and above average doctorate. Okay. This would depend on your institution, how they mark your performance in your doctoral degree. Some institutes have the CGPA, others have a percentage, others who have a grading system. If you belong to an institution where it's not really marked, then you would have to get some sort of supporting document to show that what you've done is an average, above average doctoral performance. Academic publications, you are required to send at least 3 of your publications. Qualitative publications, you are required also to send a list of your other publications. The foundation requires you to have had the papers at least accepted and some sort of documentation that the paper has been accepted. Why am I pointing this out? Because we find that many times young scholars wait until you complete your degree before you publish. You can always kind of work with your guides and see how you can have some publications, qualitative publications. What do I mean by qualitative publications? The online process, when you ask somebody to give you a reference, that person will be asked to comment on the quality of your publication. Now, why do I want to point out that this is very important? Because if your guide is known to you and you have a good relationship, your guide is bound to give you a very good reference. Hardworking, sincere, regular, dedicated. But if your guide has to comment on your publication, your guide will think twice. Because that is a professional commitment that someone is making when they say, and there are guidelines on what parameters the publication has to be assessed. Okay? So this is very important. It's just not through a reference letter that you're getting when they're asking you for references. When you give the name of 2 referees, make sure that that person is in a position to comment on your publications. Agreement by the academic host, also extremely important. You need to have a host who has accepted you when you send in your application. It is not that difficult if you do a little bit of homework, you do a little bit of research, talk to your guides, talk to the AVH fellows who are there in your institution. They can perhaps direct you to institutions who might be interested in taking you up. You have to write emails to them, you have to establish yourself, send some samples of your work. And this is something that I keep saying every time to young Indian academicians: do not send generic emails. Okay? What do I mean by generic email? Dear sir, I wish to apply for a Humboldt. I am interested in doing this. Please consider me. You are not going to get any sort of response. Okay? You have to be specific. You have to talk about your work. You have to talk about the interest that you have. How do you feel that institution can help you? You have to build up that sort of correspondence before you have your German host who says that, yes, we are interested in taking you up. Once you've established that, most German universities are quite happy to host a Humboldt Fellow because there is no financial implication on that institution at all. Okay? So they don't have to pay anything to support that postdoctoral fellow. In fact, they get some amount of support from the foundation. A little bit of homework, drafting your emails, taking help of seniors, talking to your guides, whether the email is appropriate, especially if you feel that with language you require some assistance. Okay? I'll just tell you this, for example, that senior people, if you write to them, and this is a habit that many times young Indian researchers have, if you end the letter saying, kindly do the needful, it can be constructed as being very impolite, lack of etiquette. And as your guides, and I'm sure Dr. Sengupta can tell you, Germans are very particular about etiquette, about politeness, about professionalism. So a little bit of help here and there. Putting that together is extremely important because this is a feedback from the foundation that they value Indian scholars, they respect Indian contribution, they know Indian scholars are some of the top in the world, Indian scientists are top in the world, but they say that initial application process, young scholars don't seem to understand it. So I am sure that at your level, your institute can also have workshops for you, a little bit of language skills, a little bit of soft skills, how you can hone that further. Now, for experienced scholars, you need to have an academic activity. You can't jump from one postdoctoral to another. Okay? You can't say, I've completed one postdoctoral, now I want to apply for another. You have to show that you have been affiliated to some sort of institution and work there at some level. Again, comprehensive list of your publications, agreement by the host, independent research proposal is the same. The final point that many times students have some anxiety is knowledge of German and or English. By and large, most German universities now do not insist on German, although the foundation will put you through a fully paid German speaking course, which is excellent. Okay? You will be at the Max Muller, the Goethe Bhavan the Goethe Institute at Berlin. It's one of the best courses that you can attend. But by and large, today in Germany, you will be able to manage with knowledge of English, except where the project that you're doing will require. This is mainly for those who are applying from categories of social science or humanities, where the project itself will require some knowledge of German. That would depend on your actual writing and all. They will not expect you to do in German, but I said, it would depend on what kind of discipline you're applying under. If you want to do some work, for example, in medical research, where you're going to have one-to-one interaction with your subjects there, then definitely some knowledge of German may be required. If you're doing it in sociology, if you're doing it where you're having one-to-one surveys being done, so that would depend on the nature of your project. Application process, you can apply to the foundation directly. You need not, with due respect to your dean who is here, you need not send the implication through your dean. Okay? This again is a very important factor because it is a known fact that sometimes, in rare cases, applications don't get processed because they have to go through higher authorities. You can apply directly. There is an assessment by independent peer reviewers. So first you have the referees who will review your publications, and then you will have peer reviewers. Now the foundation has started a new system of circular peer review where you have 6 or 7 people and everything is done online. So it is a kind of collaborative peer review that's being done. Then your decision by the independent selection committee, and the entire process takes approximately 4 to 7 months from the time that your application reaches them to the time that you get a reply from them. But your actual fellowship will start only from the day that you get the application from them. So they will not take into account the period in which the processing has taken place. I've already mentioned this. Some of the benefits are you get the fellowship amount, the lump travel sum amount, the language course, the benefit for families, and the allowance for the research cost to the host institution. You have this intensive mentoring. There is an excellent opportunity for a study tour for those of us who've been part of the ABS. You get 2 weeks. You're taken throughout Germany. 9 cities, 10 cities, entirely sponsored by the foundation. You get to interact with people internationally who will be part of your group, and you will get a chance to visit the top institutes apart from the institute in which you are placed. There's also this possibility of a return fellowship for specific regions. So once you go there, I'm coming next to the alumni sponsorship. Once you're a part of the Humboldt Foundation, you're there for life. They will continue to fund you. They will continue to sponsor you. They will give you n number of opportunities. One of the things with alumni sponsorship, you can go for up to 30 days if you wish to attend workshops or attend talks. You're invited to give lectures. Or you can be there for 3 months if you want to initiate another project, spend time with your host. So what I'm trying to tell you is that it's not that you're finishing your postdoctoral and that's the end of it. You will have a lot of opportunities for continuing with this networking. I'm leaving this presentation with the organizers, so you need not take all this down. This information is also available on the website. If you do wish to look for a host, then there are a number of online possibilities. You can look at the foundation's network online, the Eurasis Germany website. You have the Gerrit portal. So these are n number of institutions where you can hold down on research of exact areas that you wish to do your work. At this point of time, I wish to just emphasize that you cannot continue with your PhD work. You will have to think of a new project, an innovative project. You cannot say, I've worked on something for my PhD and I wish to take it forward. It will not be considered. How you are going to think of something more creative, something more relevant, something that is will contribute to the international scientific community. So again, you have to start your thinking a little in advance. It's not a continuity of what you are currently working with at the moment. These are the research awards. This is purely by nomination. You have the Humboldt Research Award. These are for more senior people who wish to try for a Humboldt Fellowship. There is a Frederick William Russell Research Award, again by nomination. As you can see, the amount that is given, the funding that is given will allow you to set up your own research teams, to set up your own lab requirements. There is an amount that's also be given for equipment that may be required. But as I said, all this is purely by nomination. So even if you are a senior scientist, you will still have to do a little work on the networking aspect. This is for top level junior researchers. That is up to 1.65 million euros for a period of 5 years for you to establish your own research group in Germany. This is for those who are applying after 6 years of completion of your doctorate. And of course, what is one of the most prestigious fellowships, that is the Alexander von Humboldt Professorship. Humboldt Foundation has produced almost 37 Nobel laureates in the past number of years. And this is an extremely prestigious opportunity. Again, this is only by nomination. There are other further sponsorship programs, which I'm not really going to touch upon here, because these are mainly for applicants from other disciplines. The German Chancellor's Fellowship, BA and MA, for example, International Climate Protection Fellowship. This would mean that you would be there again for a year, but it's again very competitive. But the entry point is not really the postdoctoral level. So I'm not touching upon this. Several research symposiums that you can also apply and ask to be part of. And all this information, once again, is available on the net. So if you do a little bit, spend a little of time and go through all these possibilities. I'm just mentioning one or two, but there are n number of new possibilities that they are introducing every 6 months, which I'm sure that all of you will find extremely exciting. Further sponsorship programs related to India is the Indo-German Frontiers of Engineering Symposium. And as I mentioned, there's the alumni sponsorship. All over the world, there are almost 30,000 Humboldtians in 140 countries. It opens a lot of opportunities. It opens doors for you. Even if you want to come back and you want to take it up with another international body, you will inevitably find that there will be an AVH fellow who will be located in these institutions. There is the group linkage programs, there is the colloquia and the colleagues, the Alumni Association, and the Alumni Award. The online excellent Deutschland portal that has been open, where everybody who has been an alumni of some German funding organization at some point of time, rich resources also available at the portal. Okay. This is the portal I was talking to you about, the alumni portal Deutschland. So once you're an alumni, you automatically become part of this, and then it allows you opportunities to explore where you would like to go for further growth in your scientific careers. Some facts and figures about the Humboldt Foundation and India. The data is there till 2020. As I mentioned, because of the pandemic, there was a lull, but now things have started to move again. As you can see here, there are about 3,167 new research fellows who were awarded research fellows from abroad. Unfortunately, the number from India is only 6%, which again is something of concern to the foundation, because they would really like to have more Indian fellows who are part of the foundation. Every 8th application is from India, but unfortunately the rejection rate is extremely high. And as I said, this is not because you are lacking in any way in scientific know-how or scientific skill, but it's basically perhaps you're not really aware of the application processes. You can see the distribution of fellowships, distribution in India and worldwide. As far as India is concerned, the larger number of fellowships have come from natural sciences. Humanities is still very low, life sciences and engineering. But worldwide, you can see that it is humanities, engineering, and life science. But by and large, the number of applications are mainly from the natural sciences. Okay. As I mentioned here, you can see some statistics that on an average, there are in 2019, around 216 applications from India, of which only 41 have gone through. I would, you can see here some institutions. I am sure that in the near future, your own institution will feature on this list, that you will be among the top home institutions who have received fellowships from the Humboldt Foundation. And I'm sure that as more and more awareness is created among your scholars, this number is bound to go up. This is a contact information, but before I conclude, I just kind of made 2 or 3 notes which I felt that it's important for young scholars to keep in mind. As I pointed out, some of the issues where applications are rejected, first is you don't get beyond the stage of getting a host to accept you. It would depend on you on honing your proposal, contacting the host, getting the communication going, and convincing the host that you are someone who is of merit. Also, many times it is important that you show that some aspects of your doctoral thesis have been accepted for publication. As I pointed out, that it's very important to show at least acceptance for publication. Although you may not have a publication in hand, you can't just say that you have submitted papers. It's very important for you to get some sort of acceptance letter. They are asking only for 3, out of which perhaps 1 would be actually looked at very seriously. So that's not a very large number. Okay? I also mentioned earlier that it's important that you do not try to continue with exactly the same project that you're working on. You have to show some variation, you have to show some innovation in the new proposal that you're submitting. Lack of originality is another reason that many times proposals are rejected. And lack of a personal academic profile. This is something that even when you're doing your doctoral work, okay, you have to start building up your academic profile rather than waiting till you complete your doctoral and then start to build up your academic profile. Um, Research project has to be aligned with your research interests. There has to be some sort of balance. You cannot say that you want to work on something that's absolutely new. It cannot be the same as your doctoral project, but there has to be an alignment between the new project that you want to do and your current research interests. And as I said, that if you are going from one postdoctoral to another, you cannot jump like that. You have to show that there is some sort of academic affiliation in between your earlier postdoc and the new postdoc that you are applying for. But apart from this, as I said, I'm leaving the presentation here. I'll be very happy to answer any questions that you might have here or you might have later on. But most of the doubts or most of the queries that you may have in your mind, I'm sure that almost all of them will be addressed in the site, the website, that you can have a look at. And I'm sure that your queries will be addressed there. And I think I'll end here and I wish you all the best. And I hope that next time I have Professor Naik will be able to share that you've had some successful people who have got through with the foundation. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Grading of PhD, grading of PhD. Most of the Indian university, like us also, we don't grade PhD. We get this degree. That's it. So how does it affect that part?
You will perhaps have to have some supporting letter or some supporting comments of the actual viva. Because, or you'll have to give maybe the examiner's report, where when you send a thesis for being examined, the examiner will respond and say that this is the merit of the.
That review report, you mean to say review report has.
You'll have to give something that shows that this is a PhD that's above average. Okay? So you'll have to show some sort of supporting. I'm not sure about your institute, but certainly at my university, the students are entitled to get a copy of the.
No, here also students are getting.
So students have a.
Vivavushi they get. But nowhere when you give the degree, grading is not done. Maybe coursework, we have the, sometime whatever the coursework they have done, they can get a transcript. These days, some of the PhD students also asking for transcript. But about the thesis part, there is no grading.
So there are two things that you can do.
But of course, we have the reviewer report.
You have the
as well as
reports.
Guides report.
You have the guide reports, you have the reviewers reports. What a candidate, meaning if someone is applying, they can also get a letter from the institution saying that we don't have a system of grading it, but we are attaching supporting documents that show that.
Okay. This is because as you were saying that it is above average. So I think nowhere in the report it will be there that this thesis is above average. So that kind of doubt means whatever you mentioned now, that some kind of letter is required. Okay.
No, but when you have senior people who are reviewing, by reading the report, the person will be able to sense as to how has the thesis been accepted by the examiner. For example, if I am from the Faculty of Literature and Culture Studies. So normally nowadays, PhD reviewers are very polite and they're quite polite in the way that they word. But if someone says that I found this to be an interesting thesis and I felt that the candidate has put in a lot of work and whatever, and then I have a report that says that there is something very unique in the thesis, and this is something that has not been touched on earlier. Okay, immediately I can say that there is something that the reviewer has said. But this is a first stage. So there are two things. One is the candidate can get a letter from the institution saying that my institution does not have the system of grading, and give the supporting reviewers' reports along with that.
Online questions, I think that, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Is there any interview process?
Yeah.
Or-
I'll take the first question. Paulomi is asking, has there been any reduction in available funding or not? If selections due to the pandemic, no, there has not been any reduction in the funding. But because of the pandemic, there have been certain restrictions, as we all know. Currently, the German government does not recognize Covaxin. They recognize only Covishield. So that may be something that you might want to look into. But the foundation may, look at you as an exceptional case. And hopefully by the time that your application goes through, we'll be out of this phase where vaccinations are mandatory. I'll share my personal experience.
Another 6 months. If now people are applying, it will take 6 months as per your.
As was shared in the beginning, I have been awarded the Humboldt Residency Award, and I have taken Covaxin. But the foundation has written to the German consulate to make an exception and to award me a visa. Now, it's a federal funding. You have to keep this in mind. This is a German federal government. Okay? So the letter is worded in such a way that you have no choice, but you have to award the visa. I'm just trying to show you the kind of influence that the foundation has. I'm not saying it will happen in your case, but there is no harm in saying that. And then I think that what they are saying now is that you can do your test, okay, 72 hours prior to departure, and you show that you are tested negative. But that should not stop you from applying. But coming back to the question, there is no reduction in available funding. The funding is there, the foundation is open again, and they're asking. Is there any interview process involved? There is no interview process at all, but it's purely on the merit of the documents that you have three things that are very, very important. Acceptance from your host. They will not proceed without acceptance from your host. Secondly, the reviewers' feedback on your publications. That is your people who are giving you reference, how they're going to comment on your publications. And third is the peer review process. I would suggest that don't go for number of publications. Unfortunately, what is happening in Indian academics is we have become very concerned about number. Okay? And it's really not possible. They're asking for 3 publications. Okay? And if you ask any experienced researcher, they will say it takes you 6 months to 8 months to 1 year to write a paper. Okay? You cannot do it faster than that. Impact factor depends on your area and that what you are working in, because it would depend on what are the top journals in your area, what is the impact factor, what is Scopus give, what is the various database, which is a recognized journal. But once again, I don't, no way have they asked you that it has to be a particular impact factor. It will be a comment on the quality of what you have done. Pardon? If someone has done experimental work in PhD and now trying to work on a modeling project in the same field, I'm afraid I am not a qualified person to actually talk about this, but what you would have to show, from what I've understood from your question, you will have to show that it is something that is a little different from what you have done initially. Okay? So if you worked on an initial area for your PhD, I'm not saying that do something completely new or different, but it has to be at some level that you're showing that the new project that you're taking is not going to be a continuation of your earlier project. So I think the emphasis is on that. How much of deviation? How much deviation is allowed? I think that originality, yeah. Yeah. Okay. It's allowed. It's allowed if your host gets convinced that this is a project that they are interested in, that you have the capability to do it, that you have the training and you have the capability to do it. If you're able to convince the host of this, then it would definitely be allowed. Yeah. I think as long as you're able to convince that you have the aptitude to do it, you have the scientific temperament and the aptitude to do it.
Are those projects allowed which require handling radioactive sources?
That's a technical question. I think that you may have to write to the foundation, because there would be some German intellectual property questions. There would be some German security issues, but I am not in a position to answer that. I think that that's something you would maybe have to write to the foundation directly and ask them. Or if you have someone there who you feel you can collaborate with, perhaps get in touch with them and find out whether that's permissible or not by your own government also. Because maybe for certain projects you will require to have clearance from the Indian government also. I'm not very sure about that. If you have identified the area that you would like to work in, now you have enough people, I believe, who are from the AVH in your own institution. So perhaps you could start by talking to them. Do a little bit of honing in of these host institutions, look at their website, look at the work that's being done, look at the work that's being done by the host. And even if you're writing 10 letters to different hosts, make sure that every letter is different. Okay. Address specifically. I've come to know about your university. I've understood this is the work that is being done. Cite the work that is being done. I have been following your work. Cite the work that the host is doing. So don't say that I'm making one application and I'm sending it all out, because discerning people will be able to make that out. So you find 5, do a lot of homework and make specific letters that are sent to them. So they know that if a person can do enough homework and spend enough time, effort, energy to do this, then certainly that person shows that they will be interested to take it ahead. But if I get a letter which I feel this letter is something that's very general, I'll say that she's not even bothered to do homework at this stage. How is she really going to put in the effort for?
I mean, for your SOP should be properly
Yes.
studied and made it
Yes.
properly.
Just I want. But I heard because I was also in Germany for one. I heard that in board from the host, one of the main key area, which is considered how they refer you and refer letter from host also they need.
Yes.
And that is the most important part of recommendation.
Yes, exactly. Because without the referral letter, they will not look at your application. So that is very important, where the host says that, yes, I have studied this person. I feel the person has an aptitude. I'm willing to take the person. Okay? And that, knowing German academics, knowing the level of German academics, nobody is going to give it that easily. Okay? Because the level of, and that's another reason why I feel going to Germany for 12 months or 20 months is very important, because there is this culture of accountability there. Okay? which is very important, I think, for young scholars to experience. Okay? They will not ask you to submit bills. They will not ask you to sign 10 different papers. They will not even ask you when have you come and when have you left, because they expect that sort of accountability to come from your side. Okay? And so therefore a German host will not very easily say, yes, I'm willing to take you unless you've had some sort of convincing power. But on the other hand, it helps that institution because it's a matter of prestige to them to say that they have an AVIST fellow. There is no financial liability to them. So it works on both sides. But yes, I agree that the host letter is very, very important. Bharat has asked before, how much time should I stop applying? You can apply up to 6 months before the submission of your PhD.
Madam?
You get up to 6 months. You can start the work of working on it much earlier. I would suggest you start now itself. But the actual application process, when you send it off, it's around 6 months before the time that you're confident that you're going to submit your PhD. And someone has asked, should the degree to be awarded started? Process can be started, but your fellowship will be granted once you submit your final degree. They will look at your application, they may consider it, but your application finally will go through only after you submit your. You're not going to get an application letter, you're not going to get an acceptance letter that says provision to you completing your PhD. You're not going to get that. You will get the acceptance letter only after you submit either your notification. I know in many institutions it takes time for the actual degree to come, but the date of the viva and the date of the notification will be good enough to say that this person is being declared as fit to be declared a Doctor of Philosophy.
Provisional degree is accepted.
Provisional degree is accepted as long as it is written there somewhere that you have been examined and found to be qualified to receive a PhD degree. Someone else is asking, courses evaluated, are they solely based on the novelty of the process, impact of the research? I don't think that you need to show a deliverable at the end of the project because then it doesn't become a project at all. No, you can't start off by saying that this is what I'm going to deliver at the end of the project. So evaluation, as I said, peer review evaluation, evaluation on your publication, there'll be 6 or 7 people on the panel. Novelty, I may not use the word novelty, but maybe I could use the term innovativeness, viability of the project. How are you going to contribute to the scientific community? Okay. So I'm sure that all these things and originality. Okay. And please do not never try to pass something that is not yours, because that means that you will be blacklisted and that's it. Okay. You will never have an opportunity even to apply again if you try to pass off something that is not your own. Okay. But deliverable, I think that when you're starting a project, you will have a kind of proposed outcome or proposed hypothesis, but you can't really say that this is a deliverable at the end of the project. Pooja is asking, is the project slowly decided based on candidate and host interaction, or the project is submitted to the Humboldt Foundation for evaluation? It's at 2 levels. Okay. First level is your host has to say that, yes, I accept this project. I find that it's something that can be taken up. But the assessment of your potential as a cutting edge researcher is taken by the foundation. So it works together. It's not just a host says, no, I want them to come, and they're not going to say, okay. They will have the other parameters also that they will look at. I hope that most of you now are not kind of feeling anxious or worried, meaning if you have the potential, if you know the process, I don't think that anything should stop you. Okay? This process is something that you may feel, how am I going to go about doing it? But once you are able to establish contact, and I'm sure that it's something that will work well for you. Yes, there will be a feedback. If you've not got through, they will give you a feedback. On what basis? And then you will be given a chance, maybe it depends on what the evaluation is like, you'll be given a chance to resubmit. But if there is a total rejection, then you cannot resubmit at all. But if you don't get through, there will be a feedback. Of course, if you get through, then things will be very different. You can check on the website. I may be mistaken, but what they say is first submission within 6 months, you can submit again. Second submission doesn't get through, then I think it's 18 months. Okay? So you can just check it up. All these details are given on the website. That's it. No more questions? Okay.
One more query. That fellowships regarding the experience one and the PDF, postdoctoral fellowship, the tenures are overlapping. Basically, after the PhD, it's for 4 years for the PDF and the 12 years for the experience one. So, what will be the criteria for applying for the two? Basically, there should be some criteria for experience.
Say for the experience, you have to show that you've had some sort of academic affiliation. You can apply even if it is 4 years since you submitted, but if you've not worked in a institute, you've not worked with any academic affiliation, then you will not be considered for the experience visa. Normally what they say is like especially in the Indian scenario, people take up jobs immediately. Okay? So you've completed your PhD, you may not immediately apply. You may want to work somewhere. So they make this provision. But up to 6 years, you will be considered if you have an academic affiliation. To 4 years directly after you've completed PhD. But if you have exceeded that, okay, I recently had someone who had applied, but I think on March 21st, her 4 years was getting completed. But unfortunately, she sent the application around March 31st. And then she said that it was rejected. But then they had said, we're very sorry, but I think that's German discipline. Okay. So if they say 4 o'clock, it's 4 o'clock. Okay. Even if you say, I'm sorry, I'm 10 minutes late, they will say, we're very sorry, but 4 o'clock is 4 o'clock. So that's some, I think, discipline that even when you're applying, because I'll give you an example. This is a feedback that I've got from some German scholars. Okay. They say that a scholar has written to us and we have immediately replied. Out of courtesy, we've immediately replied. But then the scholar does not reply for another 3 weeks or 4 weeks. And then you write to them and say, I'm very sorry, I was very busy. I had a lot of work, that's why I didn't reply. Not accepted at all. Okay? So part of the culture you will have to understand where they are very, very particular about that kind of professionalism. Or if they write back to you and they say that, yes, we are interested in what you have to say. Can you give us a little more details about your project? And please reply within a week's time. Now, even if you reply after 2 weeks and say that, I'm sorry, I had work, most probably the host will not. I know Pranesh is nodding. Okay? Because that's the kind of expectation that they have. So you understand a little bit of the cultural expectation also. and bring in a little bit of the time discipline. So you'll have to be very careful about the timelines. So that's something they look at carefully. Sometimes what happens is when you do a group publication, okay, when you are doing a postdoctoral, it becomes 2 authors or 3 authors. Okay, so you have the first author, second author, and third author. Who are the second author, the third author? Then you might have to specify that which area of the project you have actually worked on. So a little bit of clarity there. And also keep in mind that you can be fifth author, sixth author. I'm not sure whether in how it works with your discipline, but sometimes what you happens in humanities and social sciences, you have people who are fifth author, sixth author, fourth author. It's not considered at all. First, second, third. Okay. Even if it's a group publication, you will have to have your name either as first, second, or third author.
Any other question? Thank you, madam. So please join me to thank. Yeah, in token of appreciation, I request our dean. Small token.
Thank you. It was a very interactive session.
One more against that.
अच्छा,
Yes, yes.
Which is specific
Yes,
to
yes.
our organization.
And may I request a student to sit down for 5 minutes? Come here, come here. Get it.